Hi, welcome. I'm Claire Graves. I'm Executive Director of the Webby Awards. We're so excited to have you join us for our final Vitals design event for 2020, a design event about what you need. We launched Vitals last year because we wanted to showcase some of the work and design thinking from some really excellent creative people for our audience to learn and be inspired by. And this year, we're so excited to be able to do that with our partners at Slack Design, who are the perfect cohorts for such an event. Our aim is to create an experience that strips away pretension and encourages participants to address the essentials of their craft. To do this, we have created a format which focuses on a theme which is simple yet intensely personal. What do I need in order to create great design? While, of course, it's extremely fun to attend Vitals in person at a dive bar in downtown Manhattan and hang out and drink beer on a Tuesday evening, we think there's something really awesome about this format as a virtual experience, and we're super excited that you all can join us from all over the world. In preparation for today's event, we also created a Vitals Slack workspace for everyone to jump into and ask questions and discuss the presentations, network, gain design advice from our presenters. And you can find that channel in emails that we've sent. And actually, I think it should be on the right or the left of the event page as well. Today, we have some incredible designers from all over the country. And I will introduce them all as they start presenting. But before I do, I just wanted to give you an overview of who they are. We have Gail Anderson, who is the chair of BFA Design and BFA Advertising at the School of Visual Arts and the creative director at Visual Arts Press in New York City. Maria Gonzalez, lead web designer at Slack, coming from San Francisco, and Joe Stewart, designer and founding partner at Work & Co. in Portland. As I said, I'll introduce everyone before they take the virtual stage, but before we kick off, let me take a quick minute to tell you about the format of today's event. It may seem a little convoluted, but it's actually pretty simple. Bear with me as I share a quick deck with you all. Let me find my mouse on the screen. Here we go. Can everyone see that? All right. Remember back in the early 2000s, events with clever but rigid presentations format were all the rage. Ignite, Pecha Kucha, and so on. We wanted to bring back that idea. So here's how it goes. Each presentation consists of 10 slides, and there will be 3 slides per topic, plus an introduction slide. The speaker will spend 1 minute per slide. Now, we're actually not going to take that very, very seriously. There's no buzzer or auto advance or anything like that. So speakers, don't stress out about it, but also don't go long. And all of that adds up to about 10 minutes of presentation. Now let's talk about the topics. There are 3 topics each designer will discuss. They're intentionally broad and open to interpretation. They are Vitals today. What are they obsessed with right now? Vitals forever. What is essential to the craft and practice or otherwise? Vitals never. What are the deal breakers that can't happen? So that's the format. It isn't too tough. Sometimes it's nice to have structure, right? Let's kick it off. I'm so excited to introduce our very first partner, Gail. I'm just going to stop sharing to read her bio because it is so impressive. Everyone, we have a real design legend in our midst. And I usually wouldn't read the full bio, but I didn't know how to cut this one down because it is so impressive. Gail Anderson is an NYC-based designer, educator, and writer. She's a chair of BFA Design and BFA Advertising at the School of Visual Arts and the creative director at Visual Arts Press. Anderson has served as a senior art director at Rolling Stone, creative director of design at Spotco, and as a designer at the Boston Globe, Sunday Magazine, and Vintage Books. She's taught at SVA for 30 years and has co-authored 15 books on design, typography, and illustration with the fabulous Stephen Heller. Anderson serves on the Citizen Stamp Advisory Committee for the US Postal Service and the advisory board of Poster House. She is an AIGA medalist and the 2018 recipient of the Cooper Hewitt Smithsonian Lifetime Achievement Award for Design. Her work is represented in the permanent collections of the Library of Congress, the Milton Glaser Design Archives, and the National Museum of African American History and Culture. I am so excited to welcome Gail Anderson to the screen.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I will share and optimize. Go to the top here. The phone will likely ring or something will go wrong. I will be brief. There's one other thing that's happened since that bio. I serve on the board of the One Club. So that's exciting. That's been really exciting. Anyway, I'm Gail, and I work at SVA, where, as we said, I'm chair of BFA Advertising and BFA Design. And I've been doing that for a year, about a year now, a little over a year. So you're asking about what is vital today, something that I'm super into. I've always been into keeping track of stuff, of taking notes, of doing sketches, and really, it's a whole lot of clutter in this life. As you can see behind me, there's stuff everywhere. There's salt and pepper shakers here. There's Fiesta ware, but there's books. And this little part of the presentation is notebooks and sketchbooks. And I do love a Baron Fig notebook. And I know it's leather, forgive me, but I love a leather cover too. And I keep track of stuff, and I cut out New Yorker cartoons, and I take all kinds of crazy notes, and I put stuff into more notebooks and tape them down. And I like to write, and I like to have a good pen, because we do this so seldom, we don't ever get to write. We don't slow down enough to kind of think and take our time. And so that's what I try to do. And I think because I don't get to do it enough, when I do it, I need to do it someplace really nice. And in that case, it's a good notebook. And I love the patina that the cover develops over time. I love switching out and starting a new book, and that having so many books to write in and do different, and each book performs a different function too, which is into a whole level of crazy here that I don't have time for. But you don't get nervous about starting a book and wanting to make it perfect, because there's another book. There's always another book right behind it. And to that end, what I've done in school is force students to do the same thing. One of my amazing interns, Dominique, created these design thinking books. I have two classes, a sophomore class of design thinking and a freshman class thinking design. So it works both ways. And Dominique and Bertha, another great student, created these books, and we force the students to write and take notes, to do research, to use their hand. And we don't ever get to do that enough as creative people, as people who are sitting in front of laptops, especially right now. And so trust me on this, treat yourself to a good notebook and treat yourself to a nice pen. And some good pencils as well, a nice Blackwing pencil. It'll cost you a little something, but it's worth it. So that's really vital to me today, even at this late stage of life, maybe because of this late stage of life. It's something that I love to write, to document, to organize. And I've been like that since I was a kid. So it's been vital for many, many, many years. And honestly, vital forever. Oh my God, the books, the thing that I have to have that's always part of the process. Along with the writing comes the reading. And this big cluttery mess is, oh my God, this is my life. This actually doesn't look too bad right here, because this is kind of a bit of an organized mess. But I love to read. I love to have design books. I love to look at design books. Sometimes I have them, I don't open them for a year, but I open them eventually. And I love to be able to not go to Google, not go online to do research, but to look stuff up in a book. Of course, books mean you have to have space for them, and they start to pile up after a while, and they go on shelves, and they're under things, and they pile up on the floor, but it's worth it. And design books go out of print so quickly. You think, oh, I'll get that next year. I'll ask for that for Christmas. It might be gone. So treat yourself to a book. Again, another pile of books in my apartment. Um, just books everywhere. Um, again, I suppose I'm telling you things that are vital to me because it helps to slow me down. And it will slow you down as well, to sort of stop and ponder and think. And so I'm showing you this mess. You don't want your bookcase to look like that. You want it to look like the other, even though there's a lot. This is a mess, and I get it. But it's my mess, and it's my albums from when I was a kid, books that I've worked on stacked up, and just more design love to pick at and to look at and to put Post-its in and peel them out and get mad that they stuck in there. And to buy old books, to buy new books. Just, this is, then I inherit an office at SVA when Richard Wild retired with like a zillion bookcases. So what did I do? I had to fill them with more books. And I couldn't find a good picture because my pictures are in the office. But this is a long bookcase split in two here to show you. But see, all I need is a shelf, man, and I will put more books there. And those baskets on there, those are baskets for notebooks. Again, because there are different notebooks for different purposes. And they're all there. Take one, take another one. I'll give you one. Oh, I want field notes. Oh, well, I want these little books for this purpose, and the Bear and Fig books for another. So it's all about the crazy, probably, clearly. But it's part of the process, and it's part of the research process and reading and finding stuff. Finally, the thing that's crippling to the process, it's all about collaboration. Um, Collaboration and trust are the same thing, whether it's people you're working with in your studio, the friend that you're collaborating with, people in your office. It's all about trust. And it's all about trust with the client as well. And without that trust, it's not going to be fun. And to do this for so many years, as I hope you all will as well, it's got to be fun. And if it's not fun, I got to find something else to do. So it's all about the relationship to me, because design, I need the noise of the TV or music playing or people talking. I can't do silence because I'm stuck in my head too much. I love the shared experience of design, of talking back and forth about an idea, about throwing out a really crappy idea, and the other person's like, oh, well, maybe, and let's try this. Or even going back and forth with the client and figuring out how to kind of cherry pick pieces and make it into something. And, that's what design is fun. And that this kind of design where I'm working on something with someone and the weight of the world is not on my shoulders alone or the other person's shoulder alone. It's we're doing this collectively. If I'm working with people who are more junior to me, it's so that they're not like, oh my God, what am I going to do? It's all on me to solve this, but I can pull up a chair and we can talk. And it's not about my having a solution that I'm not telling you. It's about kind of coming up with something together or pushing you to help find that solution yourself, which is often very frustrating for the other person, but ultimately rewarding to solve a problem. Yeah, without that trust, without that teamwork, I'm out. Then it's not fun. I don't like doing it by myself. I like other people in the process, or even kind of peripheral somewhere in the area. And maybe it's just the noise of the TV being the other person, but mostly it's real people, and the books and the notebooks and the good pen and all that. So that's, is that my 10 minutes? That's my advice to you. Those are the things that are vital to me. I guess vital clutter is apparently quite vital. So, and I will stop sharing now. Go back to my little bag of crazy here. Next.
Thank you, Gail. That was amazing. First of all, congratulations on the board of the One Club. Secondly, your clutter mess is not clutter. That was perfectly art directed, beautifully designed books in a bookcase. That
You're
was
being kind, and I appreciate it.
And I love that design is a shared experience. That is not only a beautiful sentiment, but also completely true. So I'm going to hand over now to Maria. Maria is an award-winning designer with experience working at startups and advertising agencies. Her work has been featured in Print Magazine, Lazeur's Archive, and Interface Lovers. She has a diverse skill set ranging from web and app development, UI, TV, print, social, illustration, art direction, and brand identity design. I encourage you all to follow Maria on Instagram. It is a beautiful place. Her account is a beautiful place. And she is currently lead web designer at Slack. Maria, I'm so excited to hear your presentation. Over to you.
Thank you. I am super excited to be here. Awesome thoughts from Gail. Thank you so much for all that wisdom. I love all your books. I'm also constantly buying design books, and I also always have my notebook here with me all the time, so love that. All right, I'm gonna share my screen here and get to it. All right, my name is Maria. I'm a web design lead at Slack. I'm originally from Chicago, and Chicago is the city, not the suburbs. I always get confused and disappointed when people say they're from Chicago, but they didn't grow up in the city, they actually grew up in the surrounding suburbs. I grew up in the south side of Chicago. I went to high school in the city and grew up being surrounded by art and different cultures and diverse neighborhoods. About 6 years ago, I moved to San Francisco. I wanted to make the shift from working in advertising to working in tech and being in-house. After working 5 years in advertising, I was just really curious about what it would be like to work in-house, and specifically at a startup at Silicon Valley. I thought I would work in tech for about a year and then go back to advertising, but it's been 6 years now and I'm still working in tech. All right, now let's get to it. One thing that is vital for me today is being adaptable. For the past year, we've all had to learn to adapt to working from home and living through a pandemic. We've all had to adapt and be open to change in order to continue to live our lives and do our jobs. I actually learned about adaptability when working at a small startup. I learned that you have to be able to adapt quickly and work through ambiguity, as change happens fast and disruption and chaos are often common. Therefore, oftentimes you have to design with ambiguity and adapt to it. There's this quote that I really like here from author Alan Moore, who wrote, "Do design, why beauty is the key to everything." And he states, adaptiveness is based on the continual process of creating, collaborating, communicating, and critiquing. At Slack, one way that we have embraced adaptability is in the way that we have conducted photo shoots in this remote world. Right before the pandemic started, we built out our photo studio. And then when the pandemic started, we had to quickly find other ways to create imagery. At first, we used stock photography, and we found ourselves running out of options that would fit within our brand. And we were just constantly scrolling through a bunch of different images. It is then that we decided to adapt and figure out a way to do a remote photo shoot. We worked with editorial photographer Maria Walter to shoot various stills and GIFs. Together, we came up with concepts and props. As you can see here, we used Slack to provide real-time feedback and Zoom to quickly jump on a call if something wasn't feeling right. We use the eye emojis to indicate when we're reviewing something, and the checkmark emoji to indicate that something had been improved and we were ready to move on to the next shot. Though we weren't in the same room with Margot to move props around and play with the lighting, we managed and adapted with the tools that we did have. We had Slack to communicate and approve shots in real time. Overall, the photo shoot went really smoothly and we loved all the shots that we did. Here's just a few. Since the pandemic, we've now done 4 remote photo shoots. Here are just a couple of the shots that we've done. These are the ones that I personally like the most. These have been primarily led by Jennifer Tan, who's a lead designer on the team, and Christina Campbell, who is our amazing creative ops manager, and not really sure how we would have done anything without her. In a chaotic world, we've adapted to continue to be creative and do our jobs. Also, shameless plug here, but if you want to learn more about how we've mastered remote photo shoots, you can go to our design blog at slack.design and read all about it. I really do think that we've really mastered this since we've done so many of them now. All right, now moving on to a vital forever for me. So a vital forever for me is empathy. In design thinking, empathy is explained in IDEO's human-centered design toolkit as a deep understanding of the problem and realities of the people you're designing for. The way we design with empathy on the brand team at Slack is by taking localization, accessibility, diversity, and the user journey in mind. Through our Slack.com design system called Spacesuit, which you see right here, we've developed a series of guidelines for designing with empathy. In the guidelines, we talk about accessibility and making sure a copy is readable, that there's enough color contrast, providing alt text, and overall, we just aim to design experiences that are accessible to everyone, regardless of their ability. There's a quote by Brené Brown that I really like that states, "Empathy is a function of design, design is a function of empathy." As part of our Spacesuit guidelines, and being empathetic, we also make sure that we appropriately represent different audiences in different regions. For example, we make sure to localize our website by not just translating it in other languages, but also updating our photography or illustrations of people in order to truly represent the people that live in that region. This might seem like a very simple thing, but many companies actually don't do this. Oftentimes you visit a website and you change the region to, let's say, Japan. And the language might change from English to Japanese, but the people photography is not updated to represent those that live there. And that's like a huge miss. Like we should have done that as designers. Overall, just be thoughtful when designing. I watch Bob's Burgers every day for lunch, and I love this GIF where Tina says, "You guys need to look at it from each other's perspective." And then Jean responds back with, "It's time to empathize, people." And I really wish I could do their voices. I could have said it that way, but that's not the talent that I have. Another vital for me forever is also collaboration. I truly believe that we work better together and that the best ideas don't come from one person alone. Right now, we can't have brainstorms with whiteboards and all be in the same room, but there are many tools that we can use to collaborate and brainstorm together, such as Slack, Zoom, Mural, and Figma. A couple months ago, the engineering team and the designers, we all got together on Zoom to brainstorm how we would start documenting our web design system. We did a dot exercise in Figma, and it was really fun and collaborative. Together, we prioritized the project, and it was just surprisingly really fun to have 15 people in one Figma file moving things around. I usually just get super anxious when there's more than 3 people in my Figma, but this time it was actually fun because we were all doing it together. I just believe that collaboration leads to successful outcomes as everyone feels a sense of ownership in the project. And lastly, a vital forever for me is curiosity. I really don't think that you can be creative if you're not curious. We have to be constantly asking questions and when getting a brief and be curious about the problems that we're trying to solve. Like, why are we doing this? What are we trying to solve here? Who is this for? Who is the audience? What do they like? What do they don't like? Why should they care? This one's actually really hard to answer, but you should always ask that. What is the goal? What metrics are we trying to hit here? How is this different, perhaps from a past campaign or an experiment? And what did we learn? This one's super important after the experiment or campaign has ended. Always go back and ask, what did we learn? How did it perform? What can we improve upon? So always be curious. And lastly, another vital for me is negativity. We should always see the challenge or creative opportunity in any project, no matter the size. I think I actually learned this from my manager, Josie Jeffries. I don't actually remember her exact words, to be honest, but they were something around seeing opportunity in any challenge, whether that challenge came from a project, working with new stakeholders, or going through a campaign or company change. This has really stuck with me and allowed me to see all projects with fresh eyes and just be creative with it. And when we're constantly negative, that negativity can often spread and impact the whole team. It might bring team morale down, and that's not productive or necessary. Also, realistically, no one wants to be a Debbie Downer all the time. So like this meme, dash the drama, the bullshit, the negativity, the bad vibes, and the haters, and just don't be negative. Try to be positive with everything that you're doing. Some forms of negativity that I've encountered and not found productive are when stakeholders, partners, or team members say things like, well, that's just not how we do things. Okay, well, why not? Why can't we try something new? Or, but we've never done that. Okay, cool. So should we try it now? Should we run an experiment and learn? And my favorite one, oh, the client or the stakeholder will never buy or agree to that. Okay, well, should we present it and see what happens? We might be surprised, you never know. These types of negative comments just feel uncooperative and stubborn. I think we should always be open to new ideas, new thinkings, new tools. Just be open to what others are saying. If we start with excuses as to why we can't do something or why a brief is bad, we're not allowing ourselves to be open to creating new work. We've given up on creativity before even starting to create anything. We should embrace openness, be excited about the creative potential of making something and starting with optimism. I think this gift pretty much sums it up. I don't know if you watch Bob's Burgers, but if you don't, highly recommend it. The Belcher kids were asked to design clothes out of garbage, and they collaborated and took something negative and made something creative out of it. So yeah, that's what I have. Thank
Yes, Maria. Erase negativity. We should all do that. I think not even just at work, right?
Correct.
I have to admit, I have never watched Bob's Burgers. I'm surrounded by people that love cartoons, and I know that I should do this, but now I'm going to do it because if you do it every single day, it's got to be good, right?
It's pretty good. I watch it every single day.
Amazing. All right, on to our final designer, Joe Stewart. Joe is a designer and founding partner of Work & Co., a design and technology company with 400 people across 6 global offices, and I'm going to add this, huge Webby winners. Joe's focus as a designer is on modern, functional, pragmatic design. He has a strong bias towards prototyping. Brands he's worked with include, you name it, the big ones, basically. Let's see. Apple, Google, YouTube, Target, IKEA, Virgin America, Red Robin, Gatorade, Phil's Coffee, and my personal favorite out of the lot, Rafa. He holds design patents for Apple, Google, and Target. Since its founding less than 8 years ago, Work & Co has been on the Ad Age A-list, being named DigiDay's Agency of the Year, been on Fast Company's Most Innovative Companies list twice, and dubbed one of the most consequential agencies of the decade by Forbes. The Portland office of Work & Co, where Joe is based, was recently named one of the 50 best places to work in Oregon. His work has been featured in Wired Magazine, How Magazine, Fast Company, Communication Arts, Net Magazine, Creative Review, Ad Age, Adweek, New York Times, Apple.com, and in several key Apple keynotes. That's always a huge one, isn't it? Welcome, Joe.
Hey, hello, everybody. Thanks for that lovely introduction. And thanks for talking about Bob's Burgers. That's pretty great. I didn't really expect that, but that's a really good show. I highly recommend that one too. And puts a little smile on my face. I'm also holding a pencil, like I think what Gail's constantly doing. I'm a big fan there. All the notebook and pencil talk. I'm a second that. I should have put that in my deck, but I didn't. So Gail got that one covered. So thank you. All right, let's get started. Let's share my screen. All right, so I wanted to first, I split this into 2 parts. So first a little bit about me, and then I'll go into the vitals. But we're a relatively new company and not everyone really knows what we do. So I thought I'd just say, you know, what do I do? So a little bit about me. I'm a designer. I've always been a digital designer. I've been doing this since the 90s. I started when I was 19. I'm 42 now. I've just basically had the same job my whole life, which is just making websites and apps and stuff like that. I work at a place called Work & Co, which I co-founded about 8 years ago. All we make is like digital products, which are things like websites for airlines And we make e-commerce websites for stuff like ESOP and for Rafa, like what Claire was talking about, which is also one of my favorite companies ever. We make apps for companies like YouTube. So this is YouTube TV, which we designed. We work with Apple to help redesign their in-store experience. Like with Today at Apple, we do really big stuff like designing IKEA's digital ecosystem. We do small stuff like making order apps for coffee. And sometimes we do stuff just for free, like designing the digital version of New York City's subway map. So that's the kind of stuff that we do, just for frame of reference. Now on to what I'm actually supposed to be talking about is the vitals. So vitals now. I didn't say this, I didn't put it in a slide either, but Helvetica is going to be a vital always. This whole thing is just Helvetica. So vital forever and ever, and in the past and in the future. That's the bonus one. I'll start with there. Okay, so my first three vitals for now are all actually about the same thing, which is this concept of prototyping. And the reason that I think that's especially vital now is we're all kind of in the job of explaining ideas, getting concepts out. And it's pretty difficult to do that remotely now. We're so used to being able to talk with people and whiteboard and get face-to-face time. And I think right now, the best way to get a concept out is to just show it. And to me, that means making a prototype. So my first three are all just about prototyping and why that's especially valid now. So the first thing to me that's vital is an approach for rapid concepting. In my line of work, we just have to come up with new ideas all the time for clients, and speed is by far the best way to kind of do that, because you're going to be wrong a lot. So if you get to do lots and lots and lots and lots of stuff, you'll get the wrong ones kind of out of the way and you get to the good ones fast. So if you can concept super fast, then you're in good shape and you'll be able to have lots more ideas to be able to mess around with. So a general approach that I have found works pretty well to have a fast approach for concepting is first is understanding the business needs and the user needs, like what are you trying to do and why? Being able to verbalize a design direction. A lot of designers just kind of start designing, but like, what are you designing? If you can say what the idea is in a very short sentence, then you probably understand what it is. If it takes you a really long time to explain something, you probably don't understand it. So take a step back and make sure that you understand what you're doing. Next is just roughly prototype the direction. And when I say roughly prototype, I mean rough. Gray boxes moving around, works great. Spend an hour on a prototype. And then later you can decide if it's worth spending time on, and then you just repeat. So at the end of the day, if you have 10 cool prototypes, like great. And then you can decide which one you actually want to design. In terms of creating a workflow for developing these rough prototypes, this changes constantly. As everybody I'm sure on this call has realized, there's a new design tool like every 18 months. And so if you asked me a year ago, this would be different. If you ask me next year, it'll be different. Right now, my current flow is like a Figma principal flow and then QuickTime. So basically what I do is I make really fast sketches, bring them into principal for really quick interactions, and then screen record them and even just record myself talking over the screen recording and then send that out either through Slack or send it directly to the client. And people can kind of understand what I'm talking about because they can see what I'm doing and listen to the narration. And this is a really incredible way to get an idea across. Just a stupid little QuickTime of stuff moving up and down with a little voiceover goes a long way. You could replace a 10-page email with a 10-second QuickTime of a prototype. And the last thing that you need to do is once you end up with these 10 prototypes, an evaluation criteria for deciding which ones are worth working on. And the first three of those questions should always just be like, why? Like, why is this right? Why is this wrong? Why do you care about this? Really be healthily skeptical in every design. We're trying to boil things down to an ultimate truth, especially in product design. So like, why do you care about this? What does this mean? Would you actually use this is a great question. If you design something and you can say, would you actually do that? And you can honestly say, yes, it's probably a good idea. Can this be simpler? The more that you can boil something down, the plainer that you can make it, probably the better that it will work. My next set, the next three are for vital never. For me, I think a big never is like design trends. I think like most of the people on this panel, I've been doing this for a pretty long time, and you see trends kind of like come and go, and people get caught up in them, and it's not a great use of time. I would highly recommend focusing on things that are simple and classic and easy to understand and easy to use. And you can just say like, I like this. If it's simple and you like it, that's good. And that's gonna last a long time. I think what we're trying to do is make stuff that lasts a really, really long time. And trends are just not gonna go that way. I'm gonna give you an example of a great design. Now, I don't know if a lot of people would say when they think of, oh, what's a great design? They're gonna say something like this, the settings page for iOS. This design is brilliant. It's been the same way for 13 years. You know exactly what it does. You know exactly how to use it. No one has to tell you how to use it. In 1 second, a 3-year-old can use this thing and you like it and it works great. This is classic design. Another never for me is design presentations. I just don't think creating like big decks and keynotes is a particularly good use of time. I think if you can just jump straight into showing your work and your work holds water, then you're probably in good shape. Your end user, if you're making an app or website, doesn't get to see your setup slides. So they are just gonna get hit cold with your work too. And if your work works in that situation, you're great, you're good. You don't need like a huge big pomp and circumstance and yada, yada, yada. You don't need to like show your process and have pictures of sticky notes and prove to people how hard you worked and whatever. Just if you have a good idea, just give it to them. If you don't have the answer yet, that's fine. Just show them where you are and you can talk through how to get to the right answer. So all the kind of traditional creative director trickery and fluffery is in the end just sort of a waste of time. And it takes a long time too. People will spend like a day or two just like making a keynote. Don't do that. Just spend that day or two making the thing you're trying to make. I highly recommend it. It will make your life way simpler. The last one, and this is a big one, and something that I wish someone had told me when I was younger, but it is never vital to overtax your mind. What we do in this business is tough and it's tiring, and it is, it can wear you down. And it's really important to take care of yourself. Taking breaks is incredibly important. Using digital services like social media as a way to relax is a bad idea. It actually just makes you more tired. You gotta step away from this stuff. You need to recognize that the longer you work, the less productive you become. I highly recommend trying to keep normal hours, taking that break, understanding that you'll be better in the morning if you just walk away. I realize that sometimes that's not always possible, but you should really, really, really work for that. And the last thing is find what helps you become present and practice that. Design needs to be calm. Gail said this too. You can't be doing this if you're panicked and freaked out and nervous. Good ideas come to you when you're in a calm place. If you can figure out what helps you become centered and present, do that, practice that, have that become a way of life. Freaking out, working yourself to the bone is not a long game. Design's a marathon. Trust me on that. The last one, vital forever. So 3 things that I think are vital forever. The first is you need to study your design history. Gail, I think with all her books, hit this nail on the head. I completely agree. Books, 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 books. So my job as a designer is to try to predict what's going to be valuable and useful in the medium of digital, as the medium that I work in the future. The answer to that is not looking at other websites almost always. It's looking what's been successful in the past. This is our internal design library. And these are just like some of the books here that we constantly are referencing. Theoretically, what has worked in the past is theoretically what will work today. The trends will come and go, but the underlying things that got us to success are always the same. And it works cross disciplines. So you can study architecture or print design or industrial design, and you can apply that to whatever that you're working in. People who are successful understand where they came from and apply that to your life. Know your history. The next one that I think is a big deal forever is figuring out how to prioritize your career and to try to think long term. A lot of younger designers, especially the ones that I mentor, always ask me like, what should they be looking for? Why should they make decisions? And I really recommend that you make career decisions based on your portfolio. And what I mean by that is, where do you think you can work on the stuff that you're going to love to work on, the stuff that's going to be the things that are the most interesting for you, the kinds of things that you're interested in working on, and the stuff that at the end of the day, when you look back and you put your book together, you're like, oh my God, like I did a lot of incredible work. Because then at some point you can parlay that into anything that you want. If you're younger and you're making decisions based on things like title and money, you're gonna shoot yourself in the foot, kinda, because at the end of the day, you'll just be good at sort of climbing ladders versus actually being a good designer. So I really invite people to make these big decisions based on where's the best work gonna come from. And then the last thing is, remember that being good to work with is as important as being a good designer. People will remember if your work is good, but they'll also remember if they like working with you. It's so important to create good relationships with people, because you can be a good collaborator. People are going to want to work with you again. People are going to want to hire you again. And the funny thing is, this industry is really, really, really tiny. When you see someone, you will definitely see them again. They'll either be your client, they'll be your boss, they'll be your coworker, they'll be your employee. So the way that you work with people is incredibly important. So stay positive, try not to stress, try other people's ideas, say you're wrong when you're wrong, say I don't know if you don't know. Just be good to work with. It's super, super, super important. Master your craft, be good to work with. If you can do those two things, you can do anything and you'll be set. So that's it for me for today. Hopefully this was somewhat informative. Thanks very much.
Extremely informative, Joe. Thank you so much. I feel like we're going to have loads of people in the Slack channel and on the internet asking for that presentation for so many reasons. Emma, is it on me or is it on you? Oh, it's on everybody, even better. How good is that? All right, so I was frantically writing down some takeaways, and then I thought if you all have takeaways, we could discuss the takeaways, but shall I go through mine first?
Do it, Claire.
Let's do it. All right, this is one that came out through everybody's presentations. Design is a shared experience. The best ideas come from one person, but trust is the key to solve problems together. And you have to be good to work with. It's collaboration. Slow down and take time, take notes, read and study. It will help you stop and think. And remember to treat yourself to a good book, pen, and notebook. Ask questions. Why? I have here, why? I feel like both Maria and Joy had lots of whys. Ask questions, everybody. Boil it down. If you can say a problem in a short sentence, you can solve it. I have here, never design trends or design presentations. Good ideas come when you're calm. Erase negativity with creativity. Adapt to be creative and do your job. Know your history and think long term. And a couple of bonuses, Helvetica and Bob's Burgers.
Those are two good bonuses.
Such good bonuses, everybody. Thank you so much. Those presentations were so great. What about you all? Was there anything that really stood out for you in all three of the presentations?
I love that there. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Maria.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, I was wondering, Gail, like how many notebooks do you have? Do you keep all your notebooks?
I don't, I keep all of them while I'm at a job, and then I force myself to get rid of them within a year or so after, because they were just, you're a job 14, 15 years, you get a lot of notebooks. And so I try to let go, take out a few pages here and there, let go. Yeah, and then I buy more. So
Nice.
I think the big takeaway that I feel like I should have brought up too is the take a break. Stop, take a break. You're not going to solve at midnight. Go get some sleep. Start again in the morning. I learned that the hard way too late, from just trying to grind it into the ground at midnight. Try again the next day. Go out and have some fun, or go to sleep.
I totally agree with that. And the strange thing is our culture doesn't really value that for whatever reason. People sort of reward this hero martyr thing where the harder you work and the more miserable you are, the more valued you are. And in fact, it's just not true. The better ideas you can create, the more valuable you are. And you can't do that if you're exhausted. So like Gail, I learned that one too late also. So it's why I try to bring it up now.
Yeah, good thinking for people, especially people coming up in the industry where they are encouraged to be at work for hours and hours and hours. But how are you going to be inspired by anything if you're just staring at your screen and speedily prototyping? All right, anything else to share?
Is that not enough? Is there?
I mean, that was great. You are incredible designers. Thank you so much for sharing your presentation.
This was
I have
fun.
a few wrap-up things to say, and then I'll let you all go. We'll hopefully be continuing this series through the next year. So if you're watching, please stay tuned for updates on the next events. A reminder, if you haven't visited the Vital Slack channel, then I encourage you to get over there. There's lots of conversations happening there, and we will also continue to post inspiration and updates on the next event. This is an important one for us. It's our final entry deadline week. It's coming up. The deadline is Friday, December 18th. We have introduced a suite of new categories to honour work, particularly design work in software, websites and mobile sites. We have new categories for virtual and remote and podcasts. We think entering the Webby Awards is a great way to reward your team. It's been a pretty hard year, so teams around the world deserve some honouring. And the site is open at webbyawards.com. Finally, I just want to say a huge thank you to our partners at Slack for co-hosting today's event with us, and another huge thank you to our designers for their presentations and all of the inspiration. Thank you all so much.